Good morning, YouTube. My name is Yusuf, and you are watching my news channel on this lovely Monday morning of May the 10th. Let's start with a little bit of space weather news. So, as you all know, there is a sunspot 2822, which is pretty active. It has already fired CMEs when it was actually not even visible, and it continues to produce C flares, as you can see. So it is a very active sunspot, and it has been a long time since we had one like this. So I'm positively confident that this sunspot will remain active until it actually leaves the visible side of the solar disk. So this is one to watch for sure. So looking at the solar wind, we see in orange a slight increase in proton density and also a slight increase in speed, as you can see in purple. The phi angle shows a change in direction, which is again changing over here. The PZ component is relatively stable, mostly positive, although at the end it has a tendency to go to negative territory briefly, at least. And the field strength is increasing a little bit, as you can see in black. So, looking at the KP index, we see no major activity. That's because the only thing going on right now is actually the flaring activity of that active region. But this also shows that solar flares in themselves are not very dangerous because they can create radio blackouts, but the geomagnetic storms are only caused by CMEs, which can be produced by either solar flares or filament eruptions or other phenomena that happen on the sun. So it's not really the flare, the intensity of the flare itself that's dangerous, but the CME, because the CME is basically a cloud of charged particles which have their own magnetic field, unlike a solar flare, which I would compare to actually a flash, nothing. So, looking at the Enlil spiral, we see indeed we are in this region, which is slightly concentrated in protons a little bit, and we see a slight bump, as we saw earlier, in proton density. If we look at the velocity, we also see, we are at least going to see a slight increase in the coming hours as we reach this region, which will go to 400 or so kilometers a second. There is, however, something which is not visible on this solar wind prediction animation, and that actually shows on the NASA ISRA signet, and it is a very big CME which has been produced by a sudden filament eruption. So if I put this faster, at the end you will actually see it. It's like a halo eruption. There it is. So, and yes, here there is also a CME from that active region. So this happened yesterday, and if we look, actually we can clearly see that it's a filament eruption. I will start the animation. Let's go to the beginning, and you will see it. There it is. It's pretty large eruption. But that's usually the case whenever a filament eruption is involved. Let me just go frame by frame so we can see actually how big it is. So there, it starts over here. You can see it arcing. And there it is, the filament release itself and producing a CME. So this will reach us, if I look closely, at the 12th, I think. Yes, it reaches the 12th of May, and that's Wednesday. So I'll definitely make a video because this one is going to hit. If you look at Earth over here, we see a clear impact. It's not really a full head-on impact, but still an impact, and from a major portion of the density. So we will see whether this will be geo-effective or not. I think it might be geo-effective, and who knows, produce a level 1 geomagnetic storm, who knows. So moving next, there was something that I wanted to show that happened actually on the 8th of May. and this has slipped me, but I went to the data as I was just looking for unusual stuff, and I found something that could actually explain what I've been seeing lately, and that is a connection between the electron belt and the bow shock. So I was assuming that the Van Allen belts are weakening, and this might be the case, but something else caught my attention. I will show it to you. So as the electron belt moved, stayed connected to the bow shock, it moved actually in this direction to the sun-facing side of the Earth, and then all of a sudden a second bow shock appears, at least the shape of it, and we see a wall of energized particles forming, and also conductivity, if you like, with this bow shock-like shape. And clearly we can see that it is almost identical, the same shape as the bow shock. This is actually worrisome if we start to see bow shock in the tail of our planet. And here we can clearly see this. So this is the solar wind. We see the direction. And when this happens, actually, we see immediately a change in direction of the particles. And after this, in one frame, they change again. So clearly something happens. This is also visible over here, but I'm not going through all that. You can actually look this up. It's less visible, that's why I won't show it, won't waste any time on it. It's mostly visible on this simulation and this one. But here also actually what you will see is a disturbance in these closed field lines, and then you will know that something is happening, and also the concentration of the IMF over here. So this might be a clue as to why this is actually connecting to the bow shock. And in fact, if I move a few frames further, you'll actually see it, and I mean it's almost like energy is being siphoned either from the electron belt to the bow shock or the opposite. So there's clearly conductivity going on over here, and this creates a lot of energy and disturbances inside the magnetosphere. As you can see, this is all very unusual. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connections, and this is the exact same thing that we saw earlier, and we see it also over here. So there's clearly an issue with the electron belt, as you can see. And I mean, words, what the... Actually I didn't see this. Whoa. That's like, well, look at this. All the energy siphoned suddenly reappears at the backside of our planet. How about that? Didn't actually go as further as this, but I'm glad I actually did now. Okay. So yes, clearly something's going on, but I have to see. Honestly, I'm shocked to see this now because I haven't. Okay, but there will be other opportunities to discuss that. So let's move on. I'll definitely take a screenshot of this, and in fact, whenever something strange happens, I always keep them in a file. Next, I will make sometime a video compilation of everything that I have noticed and make them in one slide or so. But I will wait until I have enough separate screenshots of all the weird stuff that happens in our magnetosphere. Okay, let's take a look at the earthquakes. For now, nothing major is happening. The biggest earthquake is a 5-pointer. It happens in Japan, on the Korean island. Is that Japan? Yeah, it's probably an island near Japan. Well, I don't know if it's actually part of this. But nothing really major. If we look, however, oh yes, today while I was actually making the video, there was a little bit of activity from this volcano, and it's, let me just look at the name of it. I believe it's the, hey, what is that? Different timestamps. Oh no, different days. Videos. No, we don't need that. So basically this is the live cam of, yes, Gelding volcano, which is actually still active. Now and then you will see lava coming out of it. This is of course live, as you can see. If you are interested in this, I strongly suggest that you once in a while take a peek at it, because sometimes the activity is spectacular. This volcano hasn't said its last word yet, and it continues to be active. Okay, let's move on. But yes, and if you haven't done it already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, otherwise you will miss any future content. Don't forget to put the notifications on either, or you won't know when actually I make a new video. And if you actually enjoyed what you have seen so far, don't be scared to hit the like button. Why not? Oops. So our last item is the Arctic anomaly, and I wanted to show that indeed, as you can see, it is starting to show that 10-degree mark, which I have been talking of. So this was in the beginning just blue in my previous videos. Let me just zoom that out so you can actually see the scale. And typically it goes around, well, let's say that's 8-9 degrees, something like that. And strangely enough, the temperature does not go higher than this, but also not lower. So this is basically an opening in the middle of the Arctic. And let me just zoom that in again. So you might say, oh, this is too little to be important. This is not really a big opening, but it's in the middle of the Arctic and there is no explanation as to why. Nobody can explain to you. The ice around it is at -2 degrees. The air around it is at almost -20 degrees. So everything is frozen shut tight, but it happens underneath the ocean and happens only in one particular spot. But if we look actually, for example, at the sea ice concentration, we can see that there's already melting also the ice around it, and this is not visible in the temperature map. It is also visible in the sea salinity map, so actually it's getting bigger, basically. It's expanding underneath the ice, and this is important because we are in the melting season. If we look, for example, at the sea ice concentration map, we see fracturing of the ice all around it, and it starts actually from that spot, and look at this, going all the way almost to the shore. So this will definitely cause sea ice fracturing around it, and this will be important for when the summer comes, especially if there is, for example, a low pressure system over the Arctic, a storm. This will definitely have an impact. We could see a lot of breakup of ice and being exported to the Fram Strait along Greenland, and this could actually accelerate the melting of the ice in the melting season. So we'll have to see how this plays out. As to why, of course, we can only speculate about it. I'm not going to do that now. I've already done it in previous videos, but this might be the entrance of inner Earth, or at least the inner Sun, actually conductivity between the inner Sun and our magnetosphere, which is causing electrons to flow and to melt actually the ice or something like that. I'm not really sure. Personally, I think it's actually water which is flowing backwards from inner Earth, and which is causing, of course, an accumulation at this point, which is the entrance of it. But we will see. Might even be the lost Atlantis, something happening underneath on the surface. Who knows? Okay, this is the end of the video. Before I end it, let's take a look at a philosophical quote. And I believe we arrived at number 35. There can be no doubt that all knowledge begins with experience. So, when you judge a person, don't look at what they know, what they studied. Look rather at what they already done, because that tells you what a person is actually worth. So experience is much more important than knowledge, of course. This is it, people. I sincerely hope that you actually liked this video. Don't hesitate to leave a comment below. And as usual, I will post a link with all my web links, so you can find everything that I've been showing you. This is it, people. I hope we see each other next time, and until then, stay safe, everyone.